So I would just now run through the agenda we have for today, our session flow. We've just done the initial introductions. Now we would have a framing talk to be done by Rana, our Executive Director at 2021. And then we're going to have panelist discussions combined with questions and answers. After that, we're going to go in breakout rooms to discuss a little bit more on the topic we're discussing today. And after that, we'll return back to also report what we have discussed in this breakout channel. And towards the end, we will be officially launching our Energize Africa campaign today as well, which will then lead us to the wrap-up of our event for today. Overall, we hope to stay here for 1 hour, 30 minutes, and we try to keep it this time as well. So without wasting much further time, I will now give the floor to Rana Adib, Executive Director in 2021, to give us a framing talk and also facilitate the panelists.
Welcome, everybody. It's really nice to have all of you with us. So looking forward to the discussions. I think I'm going to share a couple of slides basically to explain you where we come from, why we have basically proposed this topic for today's Africa Rendezvous. So the rendezvous today, Africa's Renewable Energy Momentum, where does it stand post COP27? I guess to kick this off, here is basically a comic, or how do you say, a cartoon from obviously northern, I think it was a European newspaper on COP. And having been at COP myself and with the team, this is to some extent a bit how we felt. There is an important target, but are we heading there? So I think what is also very clear here is now this is a European newspaper, so this explains why there is not the global representation, but very clearly, I think this also leads us to some extent into some of the discussions when we're looking basically to a COP hosted in Sharm el-Sheikh, clearly branded very much like an African COP. What are the messages that fed into this? What are the messages coming out? And what does this mean basically for renewable energy in general, but specifically on the African continent? From one side, we had done a bit of, in the lead up to COP, basically an analysis of media coverage in the lead up to COP26 and COP27. Because very clearly, and I think this is very much linked to some political decisions, but also certainly some lobbying, the natural gas voices in the lead up, I think, to COP27 seem to be quite high. And this is really to do like the evidence, checking the evidence, whether the impression is correct or not. So you see here on the upper part, basically the media mention of renewables on the left side versus natural gas on the right side. In the lead up to COP26 and COP27. Very clearly, renewables was quite present in the lead up to COP26 and almost not in COP27, whereas natural gas was increasingly present basically very clearly in the lead up to this year's COP.
Anna,
there's
a request for you to speak a little bit slower, please.
Oh, okay. Yes, I tend to speak quickly, sorry. It's for the interpretation, probably. Yes. Which I think, thank you, Kelly, for bringing this up. I'm going to, since it is, I forgot about this. Désolée pour tout le monde, la traduction, je pense, était peut-être un peu rapide parce que j'ai parlé rapidement. Et du coup, ça me rappelle que j'aurais dû vous dire bienvenue à tout le monde en français également. Désolée pour cet oubli. On a tellement tendance à toujours parler en anglais dans nos événements. Et bon, bienvenue à tout le monde. Du coup, on est vraiment ravis d'avoir en plus une communication en anglais et en français. Je vais parler un peu plus lentement pour que la traduction se fasse de manière fluide. Okay, switching back to English. On the media coverage, basically, we have analyzed renewable energy and natural gas uptake in press in the lead up to COP26 and COP27. And from both figures, what you clearly see is in the lead up to COP26, renewable energy was very present, natural gas was less. And this is very clearly the inverse when we're looking at COP27. Renewable energy was not very present, and natural gas in coming closer to the event was increasingly present in the press. So the evidence here is confirming, I guess, the impression we had. Then media discussion during COP27 was very clearly the presence of fossil fuel. What is the outcome? I think this was media discussion during COP, but also the COP27. Clearly, the part on loss and damage as a big outcome, but the big question also when we're looking at the transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy, where do we stand? What are the messages coming out from COP27? And what does this mean, especially for energy pathways for African countries? So I think this is a question which comes up. At Renewable in the Secretariat, we had lots of discussions. We had an internal debriefing where we said, okay, what are our impressions? Because there was also a lot of noise, and it was quite difficult to basically find a way through what are the voices, what are really influential voices, where is the influence on the negotiation part. I think a massive amount of events, side events, communication, etc. But very clearly this question, so where do we stand today? What is basically the starting point after this political event and the negotiations? We have also analyzed from Renewable's side a bit on the voices basically during COP27. On renewable energy in Africa. And I think there are two main outcomes here when you look at this. So basically this is one part. When you look at the middle, there's Renewable members outside of Africa and Renewable members based in Africa. I think this is one part where clearly we have more members outside of Africa speaking about basically renewable energy in Africa than within Africa. There are certainly two components to this, is that we have this global platform with Renewable, and we clearly invite, I guess, players from the African continents to also use this as a global platform to get the African perspectives out. And I think this is one part. The other part, however, is that, and I think there has been a lot of discussion also to owning the energy pathways, and this has owning the choice of the energy pathways. It clearly raises questions on the funding side. It raises questions on natural gas voices coming from the continent compared to renewable energy voices coming from the continent. And I'm really looking forward to the discussions, because I think we have the different voices being part or basically being represented here too. And then when we're looking into the outlets, we clearly see that most of the Africa-based members were more active on social media versus basically the traditional media outlet. And that is probably also something for us to take into account for future activities when it is about positioning also the voices. Where do we position it, and how do we also make basically the shift happen, I think, of the discussions. I guess like this is just some snippets, to be honest, also some snippets because we clearly see, yes, there have also been institutional discussions. Sorry, I didn't mention this. Clearly positions on the African energy pathway from the African Union. There has been tension between like the African group of negotiators who did not accept to take on this this position basically in the negotiation mitigation part. And I guess like the open questions we would like to discuss today is what do the COP27 outcomes mean for renewables in Africa? So are there basically points where we should strategically position ourselves, but also to basically understand your perspectives on this and how you see this international event? What is the role of renewables supporting climate change adaptation and building resilience? So this is like one of the I guess like question we had from Renton one side. Obviously, when we speak about COP, there's the mitigation part, but there's also the adaptation part. And we felt that obviously renewable energy is a key solution basically in the adaptation discussion and to build resilient energy infrastructure. Secure energy infrastructure, and this is a topic which we don't see neither in press nor in lots of the analysis, position papers, etc., coming out on renewable energy in Africa. And then clearly this question about how to strengthen African voices and to ensure basically the ownership around the renewables. And I think this is basically a part where obviously Renton One as a global network can offer like the global platform, but there is always this question on how can this platform be used, because what is clearly there is that the global, so we always have like this quote of dominant voices determine the rules, and there are certainly some rules to change here and to position renewable energy as a solution for African countries in the climate context, but for economic and social development. And the question basically here is probably also to discuss with all of you your views how to do this best and how to also use a platform like Renton One. That's it for the framing. So I'm